Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is FPC Radio Live. It's Thursday. It's the start of week three. Week three already, guys. John, I don't know. I told you these things kind of go pretty quickly once you get in the the flow of things. We all of a sudden it's October almost, and then we're like, okay, these teams you can count them out because it's the Jets. Of course, they're going to be out of the mix in October, and that's the feeling I'm going to get because I feel like they're going to give the Patriots their first win this weekend. I hope, John. If anything out of this season for the Patriots, I just hope they continue the misery for the New York Jets, and I can at least sleep well at night. I think I can sleep well at night with that in the back of my mind. But tonight we have the Giants and we have the 49ers. One, arguably the best team, not just in the NFC, but in the NFL. The other, at one point, looked like the worst team in the league. And then at another point has looked like one of the better teams in the league, and we've only played 2 games. So I'd say we could be in for a fascinating matchup or a horribly boring one that is completely dominated by the 49ers.
Most likely a boring confrontation because Thursday night games tend to be that way, especially the home team has a built-in advantage, although the Giants were in Arizona last week, so they're not traveling cross-country for this game. They're just
no Saquon Barkley, though.
No Saquon Barkley, no Andrew Thomas, their fine left tackle, and now you're going up against, one of the handful of best teams in all of football. So I would say the 49ers, who are like a 10.5-point favorite, have a sizable talent advantage over the Giants, and also when you factor in no Saquon Barkley, no Andrew Thomas, that also hurts the Giants. But Thursday night's the crapshoot. Sometimes you'll see a decent game. More often than not, you see a less than inspiring game, and that really turns off Al Michaels, who gets cranky by the second quarter.
Well, I also think, too, the further along we get into the season, the more difficult it becomes to put together quality Thursday night games. Like early on in the season, obviously the first game of the season, everyone's hyped up for that. Everyone's been on a long break, so there's no real big difference there. Maybe the second game of the season, same thing. You still are super fresh, but, as every week goes on, your legs get, a little bit more worn. Your body gets a little bit more worn. And I think by the time you get to week 7, week 9. Sorry, I have cats apparently that have found paper and are making noise in the background. So I apologize for that. But the later you get down the line in the season, these guys are getting tired. They're getting injured, and that lessens the quality of these Thursday night games. And maybe this is the week that it starts. Maybe at this point they're already tired and exhausted, and they're like, you know what? Let's just move on.
Yeah, you just want to get things done, move on, especially if you're the 49ers, because the 49ers, along with the Eagles and the Cowboys, appear to be the 3 best teams in the NFC. So you don't want to have any slip-ups, especially in conference, because, as you get closer to the end of the season, tiebreakers come into effect. And with only one team getting a bye, it's always, important to try to secure that bye by beating up teams that you should. So I would expect the 49ers to take care of business. Their offenses look really good. I think their last 5 regular season games, they've scored 30 or more points, and we know how good that defense is.
Yeah, and look, I mean, they're healthy, and that's the key thing here is they're remaining healthy, and that's kind of like the biggest issue that they've had for a long time is, well, can Christian McCaffrey, him individually, can he stay healthy? Can Brock Purdy now stay healthy? Can Nick Bosa stay healthy? And we've seen them suffer devastating injuries almost every year that kind of ends their Super Bowl hopes. But right now it's early on, and again, these guys look healthy. They look energized. They look fresh, and like I said, I mean, they look like one of the 2 best teams in the league, and I don't think that's a coincidence, or I don't think that's a mirage. I think that's very true. Now, again, I'll be eager to see the long term season, how the season plays out for the Cowboys, but I do have more faith in the 49ers being, at least in the regular season, one of the best teams in the league, because we've seen that the last couple of years, John. It just hasn't always worked out in the end. But anyways, tonight we have, well, what looked like I said, I mean, you come out and you get blown out 40-0 like the Giants did in week 1, and then you come out the following week and you find yourself in a near 20-point hole. Actually, no, it was a 20-point hole, though. They were down 20-0, correct? Because I believe it was, they had, it's crazy. But they won. And as wild as a swing as these first couple weeks have been, this could be a pretty galvanizing moment for the Giants if you think about it. Like they get absolutely steamrolled in week one against their division rival, and it's like, oh my god, this team has taken 1,000 steps back. Daniel Jones is not worth the contract. Yada 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 yada. Well, they go out and beat the 49ers tonight. All of a sudden, that 40-0 blowout is a distant memory, John. Yes, it's going to be talked about when they play the Cowboys again. And yes, that's always going to be on their record for this season. But I think you wash it away pretty quickly with how you came back last week. And if you, like I said, you come out and, I mean, hey, if they come out and beat the 49ers, that's one thing. If they come out and give them a game and make this interesting, I think, again, that goes a long way in kind of, wiping that from your memory, that week one game. It's still going to matter, but I think they can overcome that early season massive disappointment with another strong performance today, like they did in the second half last week.
Luckily, in the NFL, if you're a team that gets blown out, it's not the Tour de France, so that doesn't carry over from week to week to week. If you're a veteran team, a well-coached team, you kind of put that behind you, you move on, you're able to somehow beat Arizona after getting down 20-0. And there's a point in the season where the Giants had been outscored 60-0, right, late in the second quarter of that Arizona game. So they look like, are they ever going to score any points? But then we're able to make that comeback win. It's a tough matchup for them. Again, their running back is out, their left tackle's out. They're reliant on both of those guys. They're both outstanding players. More's going to fall on Daniel Jones, who I think is just kind of a middling quarterback who gives you some excitement because he can run with the football. He's really like a poor man's version of Josh Allen, a pretty poor man's version of Josh Allen. He doesn't turn the ball over as much and doesn't make as many big plays as Josh Allen. But yeah, I mean, if they're able to steal a win, and Thursday night is always a crapshoot, they're going to feel a lot better about themselves going home after that West Coast trip.
Look, if there's one thing we've known or we should come to accept about this era of football is that it props up mediocre quarterbacks. We kind of talked about it. With the whole, we're not really in this golden age of quarterback play. I think we're just kind of being deceived type of thing. And again, I mean, it's the openness of the offenses. I mean, you can get away with less than stellar quarterback play, certainly in the regular season. Again, long term, you're not winning with poor quarterback play. Name one Super Bowl winner in the history of the Super Bowl. Ironically, you could probably point to the Broncos and Peyton Manning, but the point still stands. It's like you're not winning Super Bowls with bad quarterbacks. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen, and you're not going to do it with mediocre quarterbacks. Because again, at the end of the day, when these games become more and more important, the elite players are going to separate themselves. And I just don't know if we have that many elite quarterbacks. And to your point, John, like Daniel Jones is, he has great numbers. Kirk Cousins has great numbers. They're not great quarterbacks. Like I said, I mean, this is an era where mediocrity has been propped up. And I think we see that every week because that's why we have the Daniel Jones of the world. That's why we have guys that get paid that much money, and you're in year 4 or 5 and you're still scratching your head about some of the decisions and performances they give. And then on the flip side, you'll sit there and say, oh, he had a game where, yeah, of course he looks like he deserves that money. Well, again, because, this era of offensive football is helps prop up the quarterbacks and it makes it, I don't want to say easier, John, but I think it just, again, it lowers the floor or raises the floor, so to speak, for what I guess poor or mediocre quarterback play is.
Well, I think a lot of it starts with how much they get paid, right? Daniel Jones is making roughly $40 million a year. At his height, Tom Brady was making $25 million a year, which it seems almost criminal to bring that up. But again, Brady always had kind of a unique deal with whatever teams he was with. But yeah, that's part of it. Like the guy's making $40 million a year. You expect him to play up to that contract, which isn't necessarily the case. Yeah, the game is geared towards offense, although last year was the lowest scoring season since 2009. I think we saw that even in some of the statistics for quarterbacks. Like only 5 quarterbacks had 30 more touchdown passes last year. You didn't have like a dozen quarterbacks with 100+ passer rating. So you see the numbers are coming down just a little bit. And again, a lot of it is because defense has gotten better. You've got impact players, edge rushers like Micah Parsons and TJ Watt and a whole group of guys that are unblockable. And also the way defenses play now with the 2-shell high safety, where they're taking away long plays and they're just forcing offenses to matriculate down the field, to use a line from Hank Stram. But sometimes when you do that, you have to be perfect. Look at the Patriots. They'll move the ball, and then all of a sudden there's a penalty or a sack, and all of a sudden that offensive series, which started nicely with 6 and 7 and 8 yard gains, gets derailed, because they're not able to make those chunk plays because the defenses aren't allowing them to. So I think you see the numbers maybe a little bit of a correction when it comes to quarterback play. So we'll see how that goes forward. They're still going to get paid because the salary cap's only going up, and, good quarterback play is essential, as you said, to being a Super Bowl contender.
Well, and look, they're definitely going to keep getting paid, and rightfully so. It's the most important position, good or bad, on the football field. It's just, and I keep saying this, it's going to take us a while, I think, to really, put the offensive numbers in perspective. You know what I mean? Like this, because again, like I said, I mean, what was a great quarterback in 2000 might have a similar stat line to maybe the 25th best quarterback in this league, and that I think is a hard thing for some people to reconcile. And look, it's not an easy thing to do, because it's like, well, on the surface, it's like, well, I mean, these guys are doing the same thing, or blah 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 blah, but I don't know. It's just I feel like we've tricked ourselves into thinking that more mediocre quarterbacks are better than what they are. And the reality of it is, and like we were talking about the other day, there really aren't that many great quarterbacks in the league. And I think I've been a victim of this as well, kind of falling for the stats as well, looking at it like, wow, this guy does all this. But when it comes down to it, we're talking about quarterback play. We're not talking about stats, John. We're talking about quarterback play. And to your point, it's a lot harder to consistently sustain long drives than it is to hit home run plays. Home run plays look great on the stat sheet and certainly create a great highlight reel. But like, how great can you be from start to finish? Can you control a drive for, like you said, I mean, the Patriots do a great job the first half of the drive, and then all of a sudden it falls apart. And I don't think it's a coincidence. And this is not a knock on Mac Jones. It's just, as a Patriots fan, we got used to 20 years of near perfection. When you take that type of stuff for granted, John, when you watch these really great quarterbacks play, sustained drives, and look, I include Patrick Mahomes in that mix, because, like I said, he might be the only great one in the league right now, because these other guys haven't done enough to show some sort of consistency. Now, Mahomes isn't perfect, sure. I'm going to point out his flaws, but it doesn't mean that he's not the only great one in this league right now. So to me, I think we're seeing a lot of mediocre quarterback play masquerading as good to great quarterback play, and I think that's a kind of a problem, because I think it gives us, or fans certainly, false hope in their teams, because they're like, oh, well, this is the year Daniel Jones finally takes the next step, and it's like 3 weeks in, and we're like, well, best case scenario, he does exactly what he did last year, So I think that hype's kind of gone. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just down on quarterback play right now, John. This is my way of coping right now.
Yeah, you're just the angry old guy yelling at the clouds because your guy retired, and my guy is, out for the year. Although, don't put it past him to try to come back.
I'll put it past him.
Sure. Well, he's going to be apparently, being next to dolphins who are mating, and the sonar sounds are going to heal his Achilles. So, let's go from there. But I think look at what the Patriots tried to do against Miami on Sunday night. They played 3 high safeties, so they were trying to take anything long away from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and yet Miami was still able to score 24 points. But they did have a field goal block. They missed another field goal, which is a pretty long one. But the Dolphins were moving the football, and at that point they said, you know what, we're going to run it now, and they did very effectively. So the more you take away from an offense, the offense has to adjust. So now you're seeing, again, I'm just looking at it as kind of a correction, because you look at Tua Tagovailoa, he's right now an MVP favorite, and he is on pace for 34 touchdown passes, which is good. He's also on pace for 17 interceptions, which isn't very good. Like when Brady and Rodgers were winning MVPs, they weren't throwing 17 interceptions. They were throwing single-digit interceptions, and in some cases, like 5 or 6 of them. One year, didn't Brady have 2?
Well, he had 4. He had 4 in he had 4 in 2010, but he had the 2 in 2016. Again, right. I will point out though that 2008 MVP for Peyton Manning was I mean, it was pretty mediocre even during that. But again, when Brady goes down for the season, it's
and they just give it to a quarterback.
Yeah,
because, you know, we've seen once a decade you'll see a running back win it.
And look,
Adrian Peterson was the last one 11 years ago.
And look, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that because again, you're working at a disadvantage if you're not a quarterback because you're not a quarterback. I mean, it's just people scream, and this is why I'm so pro wins as a quarterback stat, because no matter how many excuses you make, they have by far, like, no one goes out and says, "Oh, we got Jamar Chase. We're going to the Super Bowl now." It's like, no, who cares if you have Jamar Chase? Who's throwing him the ball? Like, who's the one? Because Jamar Chase gets what at best targeted 20 times. I mean, on an incredibly great day, he gets record-setting day, he gets targeted 20 times. How many offensive snaps? Yeah, how many offensive snaps?
70 offensive snaps, right? If he gets 15, essentially 20% of them. And look, if Jerry Rice didn't win the MVP in 1987, a receiver should never win the MVP. I mean, his numbers were ridiculous. In 12 games, didn't he have like 23 or 22 touchdown receptions and well over 1,000 yards? John Elway won the MVP that year, quarterback. And then I think this could be the year, and I'll push for it because a defensive player could win it. It hasn't happened since 1986 with Lawrence Taylor, but because, again, defenses are making a comeback, and you have these unblockable guys, and I'll throw Micah Parsons out there, who I think may be the best player in the sport. Look what he's done in the first 2 games. Yeah. He's top 5 in sacks, tackles for loss, forced fumbles, and recovered fumbles. Like, I don't know what else a defensive guy can do. Like, next thing you know, he's going to have a pick 6 and really, do everything out there. He disrupts the other team's offense, so that's pretty important.
And right now, according to BetMGM, he has the 13th best odds at MVP at plus 3,000. Which again, the quarterbacks dominate the list, but kind of to what you're saying is like it feels like at least through 2 weeks, and like not all the time, but pretty often, like the quarterbacks that ultimately win MVP sometimes just have that huge first week, and Aaron Rodgers notwithstanding, apparently, because that doesn't matter. Remember, first week that was a that was a do-over. What a ridiculous year, 2001. I keep.
God, here we go again.
Oh, John, I can't
get over it. He won enough. Okay.
No, he has not won enough. He has not won enough.
He'll come back and win another MVP.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Playing for the Jets in 2 weeks and win an MVP this year at the age of 46.
What a just highway robbery in 2000. I think I want to start a podcast series just about that MVP race. I don't know.
Rodgers could have won it in 2016 as well. I thought he was exceptional that year.
He was. But here's the thing though, John, and this is one of the again, at the end of the day, the MVP. I think it was held much like a Pro Bowl, and to some, well, I think all pros fairly important, but to much like a Pro Bowl, I think it was held to a higher standard before. I feel like it's losing
before 2021 once Brady didn't.
No. Look,
highest standard.
Well, look, that was enough to question his credibility. Sure. Like, I mean, how poorly has that aged looking back at that? I mean, we look back, like, I think even some of the pro Rodgers guys are coming out of their drunken stupor and looking at it like, what the hell were we thinking? Like, look at this. Like, EPA. That's it. He led an EPA. Ooh. Like.
Well, didn't Hub Arkush maybe help Aaron Rodgers when he said he would never vote for him because he was an A?
Oh, yeah. Well,
and like the guy, I think other writers are like, "Damn you, I'm going to vote for
him." Well, okay, there you go. That kind of
maybe that happened.
I
thought they were both deserving. I mean, I think they both had MVP caliber seasons. I know Brady threw the ball more, had more yards. They both had 13-4 records, so you couldn't really, separate them record-wise. That's why I think kind of like this year, let's say the Cowboys go 14-3, and Micah Parsons has 25 sacks, which I think he could. He automatically becomes their MVP candidate. And the top quarterbacks, let's say Mahomes goes 11-6 and throws 31 touchdown passes, 14 interceptions, 4,400 yards. Is that an MVP season? I don't think so.
Well, it was for Peyton. It was for Peyton Manning in 2008.
Well, that's 15 years ago. But now I seriously think someone's going to obliterate the sack record this year. Someone's going to end up with 25 sacks, which is 1.5 sacks a game. I think there's 4 guys in the league that can do that in their sleep.
Well,
Micah Parsons being one of them.
And kind of what I was getting, and Braden says T.J. Watt, throw him in the mix too after what we saw on Monday night. And I just have obviously more faith in the for a defensive player to win MVP, that their team really has to be 14-3. You have to be they're not going to give it to T.J. Watt if the Steelers are 10-7 or 9 and whatever. But what I was kind of getting at is a lot of the times, especially with the quarterback, is we see a huge week one that really kind of puts them a step ahead of everyone right from the hop. And that's when I started thinking about 2021 and got off on my rant there. But the point is we haven't really seen that yet. I mean, yeah, Tua, but does it make sense? And again, this is kind of where the human element comes into play when it comes to MVP voting. But Tua doesn't have that credibility. If Mahomes had that week one, I think it would be, that week one performance Tua had, it would be far more publicized, and he'd probably be running away with the MVP race already.
Absolutely. Tua doesn't feel like an MVP. I kind of look at the Dolphins and think of Tyreek Hill as the MVP because he, again, is a wide receiver, but he kind of opens up everything for that offense. I mean, the Patriots so frightened of him that they just backed off and
wait, you're talking about the Dolphins or the 2018 Chiefs? Sorry, Braden. I mean, look, I'm serious though. That's the thing though. It didn't matter.
The guy did win an MVP. He did win an MVP and did win a Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill. So,
not before last year. I'm just
5 years.
No, I'm saying no. My point is, John. You say Tua's doesn't seem like an MVP candidate, and then you list the reasons saying that because of Tyreek Hill. Well, I mean, Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins and Travis Kelce and Kareem Hunt.
Don't say Sammy Watkins. Don't put Sammy Watkins in there. I've seen enough of Sammy Watkins.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
He should be among the Patriots wide receivers.
Yeah, that's true.
Limping and were good 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. But at the same time, hold on. I gotta make sure. I want to see something real quick because if
you need to do political talk, you would be fantastic on that. Someone's gonna hire you during this presidential election because you would be phenomenal.
I would blow a gasket. My health.
I know that. That wouldn't be good. I know.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good for me. This gives enough. I take back my statement. Actually, 52 yards that season. Jesus, wow.
Yeah, no. Sammy Watkins never been a big help to anyone.
Okay, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce. The point is, this team was obviously very, very much loaded. I mean, they had a lot of offensive weapons. So I'm not gonna knock Tua for that early on. So you know what I mean? What I'm saying is, I can absolutely see Tua as an MVP candidate if he keeps doing what he's doing, just like, it turned out that Mahomes was. But I don't think, to your point, I think there's still a door open for a defensive player to make an early. They really have to get in early. You can't be playing from behind if you're a defensive player in this race. Let's put it that way. So, for me, I think they got to really, make that headway soon and really kind of play from ahead, because again, as a defensive player, you're working from behind, and it may seem unfair to some people, but the reality of it isn't unfair because the quarterback is the most important position. So naturally, they're going to be favored for MVP, and I'm okay with that. So how people are like, oh, we should just make it a quarterback award. No, I mean, it's an MVP. It's you know what I mean? It's appropriately labeled and I think distributed. I just don't, like I said, I mean, we can argue about different, who should have won this, who should have won that, but at the end of the day, the quarterback is it's going to be the most important. So we'll see how it shakes out. But right now, Tua, like you said, he's the leader right now. So
I'm taking Micah Parsons at 30-1. That's a pretty nice payday if he pulls it through. But you can go back to basketball in the 60s and the 70s. It was strictly centers winning the MVP in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it was. It was Bill Russell, Kareem, McAdoo, Dave Cowens, Moses. Like the other players didn't win. I think one year Oscar Robertson won an MVP and he needed to average like a triple double to do that. And then all of a sudden, at that time, it was the players voting for the MVP. When the media took it over, then Dr. J won it in 81, and then you started to see Bird and Magic and Jordan, and people came to their senses that someone besides a center can be the MVP. But no, the quarterback has a built-in advantage over everyone else. But I think the way defenses are being played now, especially Micah Parsons, and I keep bringing him up because I think he might be the best player in the sport, but Sunday against the Patriots, if he's lined up opposite of Calvin Anderson and gets 4 sacks, on a nationally televised game with Nance and Romo in the booth and Romo, going crazy. I mean, that may increase or it may actually hurt his MVP chances because people are so tired of Romo. But yeah, you're right. The guy has to have that signature game like Lawrence Taylor did in '86 when he won the MVP, when he was clearly the best player in the league.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, it's been a long time since we had one of those defensive MVPs. But anyways, who do you got winning tonight? 49ers, right?
Sure.
Right? You haven't been sipping the sauce too early today, right?
No, not yet.
Good,
no,
good.
I wait for a while.
All right, good. All right, maybe I'll ask you later. Maybe you'll pick the Giants, and even then, who knows? I'm not picking the Giants. Like I said, though, look, they don't. I don't think they need to win this game. Obviously, it helps. I just think they need to put together a really good game against a very good opponent, and I think they could be well on their way to kind of turning the page on that week 1 debacle. Mm-hmm. So, but I do have the 49ers winning this game. So that's going to do it for us here. We've actually gone over our time, but we had such a spirited conversation and I needed to make sure that I fit time in for my 2021 MVP rant. It won't be the last time. It won't be the last time, folks. Trust me. Like I said, I might come out with a podcast series just talking about that. And yeah. So anyways, that's going to do it. We'll be back tomorrow. We will give our picks for the entire weekend and hopefully we'll do better than we did the last couple weeks. So thank you everyone for tuning in and we'll talk to you then.